We're all about turning a crappy situation into something positive.
$250,000 of credit card debt.
I still remember the day when no one turned up.
Throw it in the garbage and start from scratch.
I could give myself a chance, so I started something.
I mean, I think that counts as from poop to gold.
Our sponsor for this episode is our 14-day video script challenge.
Yes, we are sponsoring our own show.
Yes, we are. Hey everyone, welcome back to From Poop to Gold. I'm Daniel Harmon, Chief Creative Officer at Harmon Brothers, and your host. My guest today is Charlie Tyrel. Welcome,
Hello.
Charlie. Charlie is a filmmaker. We're at the Sundance Film Festival because Charlie has a film here that is, it's been accepted into the festival. I don't know if it's debuting. Is it making its debut here, sort of thing?
This is its third festival.
This is its third
We
festival,
did Philly
okay.
and Doc NYC, and now we're here.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cool, very cool, congratulations. So, third festival, which is awesome. It's very cool. So the title is Broken Orchestra, and it's a documentary film done in a very inventive way. So let's go ahead and jump into that a little bit. Like, if you can give our viewers some background on the story of what this is about, and then basically how you came to decide this is something I want to make a film about.
Yeah. Well, I came to the story kind of uneventfully. Normally it's nice to either live something like I did with my previous film or hear about it from a friend, but I just read about Symphony for a Broken Orchestra in the paper. And at the time, I believe the concert had just happened. So what it was, funding in Philadelphia for the arts programs, from music to dance to, visual arts has been so dramatically slashed over the years that a byproduct of that is instruments that normally would have had money to be repaired or be replaced weren't. So instruments are ending up in closets or basements. Students are making do with broken instruments, or, the worst case scenario, which did happen, is there's, shortage of music classes in general, or students are being discouraged from taking music classes.
Yeah.
So from there, quite a few people got together and recognized the problem. One of them being Robert Blackson, the subject in the film, and kind of paved the way to consolidate all the instruments. So there was about, I believe, 1,500 instruments in need of repair across the public schools district in Philadelphia, and decided, let's kind of challenge this problem in a creative way. Let's, try and create an art piece out of this that makes people more aware of the problem. So what that solution was taking 400 broken instruments and 400 local Philadelphians ranging from ages 8 to 80 to play this performance, play this musical piece that's about 40 minutes long, and try and do that to, yes, attract donations to get the problem fixed, but also to bring the community together and make everyone aware of, what's going on.
Yeah.
The concert was successful, the donations came in, and the instruments have now all either been repaired, or the ones that were so far beyond repair have been replaced, and they've been recirculated in the school system with money to fix them, perpetually as well.
Yeah.
So I heard about that story, and it completely blew me away. I reached out to Robert, and he connected me. It was either him or someone they connected me with sent me an early mix of the piece, of the music, which is composed by David Lane.
Okay.
And it starts out like how you'd expect. It's a bunch of rattling broken instruments turned into percussive pieces, shaking and, just a big kind of noisy sound. But as it goes on, the sound kind of begins to harmonize, and it gets big and it swells. And I'm already a huge enough music fan, especially symphonic music, but this, when you find a piece of music that can actually go inside you and have an effect on you like that, I mean, those are so rare that, I knew if the music was terrible, I still probably would have wanted to make the film, but this helped make it, even more impactful and meaningful, I think.
Yeah, it resonates a lot more emotionally because of that story behind it. Yeah, which is fantastic. It's such an inspiring story. One of the things that is so interesting to me is, rather than people waiting on any kind of policy changes or any kind of funding to come down through it, they just said, let's just go solve a problem.
Exactly.
And I think that portion of it is so inspiring. And the way that pulls a community together in the way that they did, and then ultimately the success that came out of it, for them actually reaching the goal of being able to go back and either refurbish or fix these instruments or whatever it is just, it's an awesome story.
Yeah, I mean, I love creative solutions to problems, right? And this is an amplified and perfect example of that, and one that comes with a bit more meaning than just, oh, I fixed my broken door by building one out of cardboard or something. This is something that actually has something that has more impact than that.
So once you discovered the story and decided, okay, I'm going to make a film about this, how long did it take to make this film from, conception to where you had the final cut?
I mean, from when I consider when it all started was when I started talking to Rob, which was January 2018.
Okay.
And then, the back and forth took a while.
Yeah.
I had other things going on in my life at the time that, I had to wait out.
Yeah.
But from probably when we were kind of greenlit and, the budget was there to when we were done and the edit was complete was about 6 months.
Okay.
And yeah, we worked with Topic on this, and they were great that they gave us this creative flexibility that I'm so fortunate for, where we just had to kind of say, this is what the story is.
Yep.
We don't know how we're going to do it yet,
Yeah.
but like, can we do this? And they just said yes. And because the visuals for the story uncovered as we went into it.
Yeah.
It's all set in walking through an empty school, and the TVs are playing back, the interviews that we got down in Philadelphia. And that wasn't something that was in the plan from the beginning. That came out of being in Philly, doing some of these interviews in schools. For me, it had been over a decade since I'd been in a high school, and realizing that if we place it there, then that might help people empathize with the story, because they'll begin to remember their own experiences. Because it's easy to forget how impactful a good teacher or a good classroom was on your life, and if we could put it there, then that might help people relate to what the story was about.
Yeah, that's really good. And that, just to kind of catch our audience up to speed, the style that this story is told in is kind of a continuous walking shot, like you said, through the hallways of a high school, empty hallways.
Yep.
But then ultimately there's stands up with TVs, like the TVs you'd see pulled into your science class or whatever it is. And those are playing essentially the interviews that you captured of the individuals that were involved in this event of bringing this whole thing together, and that are retelling the story. And this is kind of happening just continuously, free flowing. You almost have to see it to be able to appreciate the way Charlie captured the storytelling, which I think is pretty genius. Like you said, it makes it much more, it gives people a little bit more empathy.
Yeah.
Of being in that circumstance.
And that's not to say that it was, completely pulled out of our brains. Part of it was because of logistics.
Yeah.
The story had already happened by the time we came into it. So
you couldn't document anything other than after the fact.
we didn't have footage of the performance. Footage was available, and
No one had actually.
people filmed it, and so some of the videographers did allow us to use some of the footage in our installation piece that Jesse Yules made in the gymnasium at one point in the film. But for me, I like to kind of have a bit of a handle on how things are shot, and it was kind of, it was a little bit, it wasn't something that I was super interested in doing, and putting someone else's footage in the middle of the film that we did. So that was an interesting creative challenge. The other element was, we filmed all these interviews down in Philadelphia, but I'm based in Toronto, and so was the rest of the production. So we just went down there, captured the footage that we had, and then brought it back up north, and knew, okay, we need to figure out something to do with these interviews here. So we rented out a school that, from a city just outside of Toronto, and then we were able to get it all there. So it wasn't all just, flexing creative muscles. Quite a bit of it was, restrictions and logistical limitations.
Why should our audience be interested? I'm asking you to toot your own horn, but why should our audience be interested in your film? What makes it different from films that we've seen in the past? I mean, I've seen it, I know what it does, but I'd love to hear you describe that.
Sure. I'll appreciate anyone that, enjoys the creative or technical aspects that we were able to apply to the film. But for me, the story really does the heavy lifting. The people do the heavy lifting, our subjects.
100%.
And for me, the film was, we kind of said from the beginning, let's make a film that people who are against arts education should watch.
Yeah.
I'm a filmmaker. A lot of my friends are also filmmakers. I'm a pretty open-minded guy, but it's kind of hard to find friends from the opposite side of the fence because you aren't going to be in the same spaces twice.
Right.
But I would absolutely encourage and welcome a conversation that anyone who disagrees with what Symphony for Broken Orchestra was all about could have to say. I did a lot of phone calls with everyone, and just the way that everyone talked about this night. And some of these people I'm talking to are lawyers. Some of them are, not really in the most creative fields. That's not to say they aren't creative people, but people cried on the phone. People broke down. You could tell that this night had a significant meaning to everyone involved.
Yeah.
And, apart from the envy that I felt of not being able to be there, I knew, we can probably illustrate what happened that night just through people talking and through something else and through a different medium rather than just showing here's footage of people playing.
Yeah.
Because the night was more than that. The night was more than just any one player and their instrument.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really kind of engrossing experience. It really kind of pulls you into it, where if we were just to see these people, if we were just to cut from one interview to the next and not have that visual storytelling element be part of it, I don't think it would have impacted me the same way. And one of the big choices I loved the most of it was in kind of a little bit of the climax of the film where I forget the name of the guy that's talking about it, but basically he's explaining
Rob?
the impact that it had when one of the kids realizes, oh, my instrument was actually saved or provided to me by this initiative, by this concert that was put on. That was so impactful to him that when all the students started realizing, oh, I'm able to play because of this. He gets pretty emotional in it, but you take the time to go in close on one TV set at that point, and then let that kind of take over.
Yeah. So we cut from the TV on the AV cart to the actual footage, and yeah, I mean, there's no cuts in that segment of Rob's interview. There's some jump cuts in the interviews that we hide with, TV static and stuff.
Saw that.
But with that, it was kind of like, we don't need to cut, and I know that this clip is running on kind of long. It doesn't seem long-winded, but every single word he says felt so, I couldn't cut away from any of it.
It was the story.
So it was, it bottled up the whole thing in that one clip. And the reason why we do jump from, this kind of weird fantasy world of an empty high school to just his interview clip was, the TVs are a little distracting. The movement's a little distracting. There's a lot going on in the piece, and it's kind of one of those things where, if you're missing any parts of the story, you might have to watch it again. But with that, it was like, we need to get rid of all the bells and whistles, all the bells and whistles, all the distractions, and just go right to Rob. And he's owed that moment, and also just to kind of almost bring him into the room with you.
Yep.
When we were conducting that interview, I mean, I'm pretty sure I had to cut after that, and myself, Julie, the producer, Joseph, the co-writer, and Chet, the cinematographer, I'm pretty sure we all cut, and we all just went, "Hey, Rob, we're sorry." And he was fine. He was cool as a cucumber, but we were all just like, whew, like something special just happened there.
Yeah.
And I still get emotional when I watch that scene. I got very emotional when we were doing the interview, and it's personally my favorite scene in the piece, just because, I think that he's a very a good representation of who people should strive to be more. And I'm not trying to put him up too high on any kind of pedestal, but for a person to so selflessly, and to have this empathy for, everything that's going on around him. We're in a city where, well, any city, any part of the world, it's easy to just focus on your own problems. I mean, what he and everyone else involved were able to do is something that I hope I'll be able to have a similar kind of impact in my life, and make sure that, you know, I can put my time to things that are a bit better than just trying to make a dollar.
Sure, good to make a dollar, but you always want it to ultimately make a bigger impact, and that's one of the things that fits so well about Broken Orchestra, this short film that you've created. It fits very much into our why as Harmon Brothers, which is to share better stories. And so we want to make, you know, stories that are going to make the world a better place. And I just love the initiative that people took there in Philadelphia to just go out and solve that problem, and do it in a really creative way. And then essentially your film has become almost a reflection of that creativity, right?
That was the challenge, that they did this amazing thing, and how do we take a problem that was turned into an art piece, and how do we take all that and turn into a film
into another
without
art
it
piece.
without it being, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is in a way that matches what they were able to do. And it's not really my place to say if we did that or not. That's up to them, that's up to viewers. I know that we tried our best, but you know, it's something really awesome that they did. So we were fully committed to our subjects and to the story. I am happy to say that Symphony for a Broken Orchestra, which is the name of the project, is expanding nationwide.
Oh, good.
I just spoke to Rob this morning.
It's like an official organization and everything.
Yeah,
now.
I don't know enough of the details because everything's underway right now, but some people that were involved with the performance itself, including Devin Greenwood, who's in the film, are kind of taking charge to put it into other cities, because other cities are reaching out, and this is a problem in, you know, many places. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with it, and I'm sure it will be just fine and continue.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So about 6 months long for you to do this project, like you mentioned. The podcast is called From Poop to Gold. We usually focus more on the story of when you've had a crappy situation, turned it into something positive. I wonder if you have one of those within this project of like, Keith, our producer, he loves the book Still Like an Artist, and in there it talks about the dark night of the soul, like essentially a moment where you're going through the project when things get really tough, they're really crappy, and then you're able to, you know, overcome that in order to finish out. Does anything come to mind with this short film as you were creating it?
I mean, the interviews, there were two parts of this production. Well, three technically. One was the interviews in Philly,
Yep.
which were honestly a breeze. Everyone was so great. Everyone was on time. Everyone was very accommodating of us. The second part was the stop motion, where I worked with an animator that I've worked with many times, Martha Grant, and that involved us smashing up a bunch of instruments in a studio. And there's very small moments in the film where we have the stop motion animation, but that was fun. And then part three was the shoot in the filming the scenes in the school, in an empty school on a weekend. And that was absolutely crazy. That was something I'd never want to do again. I feel like it was all dark. I feel like it was all kind of panicking. Are we going to, you know, get our day? Are we going to make all these scenes?
Just stress.
Yeah, the school had so many stairs, and then we had to move those TVs on AV carts between floors because there was no elevator. So, I mean, everyone got really strong that weekend, but
And sore.
you know, it's been a long time since I don't encourage people to do those real grind film productions. I think it is something that can and should be a bit more comfortable than, you know, long 16-hour days where everyone's worn out at the end of the day. I don't advocate that anymore, but you know, the situation kind of got larger than we kind of expected it to. So we, you know, no one jumped ship. We just had to kind of power through and get it done. And as far as, you know, something going dark and turning into something that we were able to find a creative solution in, nothing specifically coming to mind, but I will say that we only had 8 televisions and 8 AV cards. I thought we'd be able to find more. It turns out they're impossible to find. I spent 2 months on Craigslist and just had a bunch of TVs as I could get them, filling up my apartment. And I mean, we planned out as best we could, but we planned out on a paper map of the school. So a lot of the stuff and a lot of the scenes and a lot of the way that the scenes and movements carried out, we came up with on the fly. And a lot of that's owed to Chet Tillicani, the cinematographer, and Alan Kelly, the Steadicam operator, and everyone else involved, including Carlin and Dominica, the art team. You know, it was this kind of really, like I say, tough shoot weekend, but everyone contributed something to the film and to the to what we were able to capture, the way that we decided to set up TVs, the way that we decided to put things in the background to relate to what the interview subjects were talking about. It was a truly collaborative and unified unit.
Awesome.
A team of filmmakers. I believe there's about 25 of us on set, and no one was silent. No one was just doing a grunt job. Everyone had something to contribute, and that's the way I like to work.
That's awesome, especially when everyone just dives in together.
Yeah.
To just make it happen.
I mean,
once you're faced with the challenge.
I'm kind of speaking for some people. I'm sure everyone wasn't happy,
But got through it.
Yeah.
Powered through.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. I've been on those kinds of sets where you're doing those long hours, but as long as everyone has the attitude of like, we've got to get the shot, let's find a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
Then you can get through a lot of stuff, and honestly, you all come out closer.
Yeah.
Afterwards, you come out.
Well, ideally, yeah.
Hopefully.
You know, not always, but it's great when it does. When
Yeah,
it
it is great when that happens. Okay, so for someone, for someone wanting to get into film.
Don't.
Okay, there you have it. The words of Charlie.
No.
Do not go into film under any circumstances. Okay.
Yeah, for anyone wanting to get into film, I mean,
What would you say? First steps. What are some of the things that you know now that you wish you would have known maybe 10 years ago or whatever it is? I don't know how old you are, but
I'm 32.
Okay.
One of the big things for me, because I mean, this is my third real kind of festival film that's got into festivals, and before that, for whatever reason, I used to always kind of think of other filmmakers as competition.
okay.
You know, there's only so many seats at the table, and I need one of them, so you know, screw that person.
If I'm going to get in, that means someone has to get booted out.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that attitude is not a good way to carry yourself.
Yeah.
It's a waste of your own time, and you're going to end up, you know, this cynical, angry person because
You're always competing for somebody else.
and rejection's inevitable. Like
rejection's inevitable.
It's going to happen, and thankfully, in 2015.
It's a zero-sum game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
And fortunately, you know, when you get to festivals, when you get to Sundances, and you get to other places, no one's really like that.
No.
Everyone is ready to talk and collaborate and work together. One of the first people other filmmakers I really became friends with was at South by Southwest 2015, Josh Palan, who is an amazing filmmaker, and we've ended up collaborating on a few projects. And you know, it's important again to not think about these people as competitors, but as allies. You know, if you're in their city, they'll show up to your screening, and likewise, I'll show up to theirs if they're in my city. And I've had filmmaker friends crash on my couch because accommodation's expensive, especially during festival week.
Yep.
And people have put me up on their couches, and you know, sharing edits, sharing scripts. What better kind of pool of people to, you know, hive mind from than your contemporaries? So don't waste your time thinking like it's a race and there's only one finisher, because everyone can make different films, and you know, it's a busy field, and there's a lot of talent, but there's always room for another good one. So
Yeah, there's more than enough work for everyone.
Yeah.
More than enough opportunity for everyone as well, right?
Exactly.
Especially with the way the industry's evolving,
Yeah,
right?
opportunity's not really there for everyone, but luckily I feel like we're entering an era where, you know, there is a bit more of an awareness there, and underrepresented voices are beginning to have more of a platform than they did, say.
Yeah, and what I mean by opportunities isn't like not everybody, there's not director jobs for everybody, but there's opportunities to be created.
Yes.
To get to your next step always, is what kind of what I feel like. You know, like you're going to place more limits on yourself than anything around you is going to place on you, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. And just you know, do your own thing. Like, don't worry about, you know, don't get, it's easy to say, you know, to instruct someone how to feel, but, you know, other people are going to seem like they're exceeding and seem like they're doing things way beyond what you can do, but everyone has a different timeline to their life, and it's fine whatever one you end up with. So
Yeah.
the pressure's only going to make it worse.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Charlie, for taking the time
Thank you for having me.
to do this interview. Really inspiring stuff, and thank you all for watching. Be sure to visit harmonbrothers.com if you want to learn more about us and what we do. Also, you can check out our book, From Poop to Gold. But anyway, thanks again, Charlie. It's been super inspiring to watch your film and to hear the story of how it all came about. And thank you again. We'll see you on the next one.
We all kind of reach that point where we know we've created something awesome and we want to share it with the world, right? Mm-hmm. And it's that very next step that can oftentimes be really intimidating or really scary, or you just don't know where to go next, right? And the beautiful thing about this 14-day script challenge is you get your hand held from, okay, you have this cool product, now let's go research and find the exact way to present it and message it to the world in a way that resonates and gets people excited and they're ready to swipe their credit card and purchase. And in the 14-day script challenge, you get the opportunity to go through that step by step with our writers who have done it dozens and dozens of times.
You actually watch us go through each of the steps ourselves and create it with a real client, a real product, and it's a real campaign that's out there that's been very successful.
That's right. And the feedback that we've had on this thing has just been phenomenal. I mean, we get comment after comment and emails flowing in from people all over the world who have just raved about the impact that this has had on their business.
People tell us over and over again, it is just a huge value punch for the investment for this 14-day script challenge, and really gave them the tool set they needed to walk through it and make it happen.
And we've had dozens of students who have successfully taken the challenge, written their script, launched their ad campaigns, and driven success for their business. It's pretty amazing.
For more information, go to hbros.co/script. That's hbros.co/script.